Hansel and Gretel. On the edge of a forest lived a woodcutter with his two children. Their names were Hansel and Gretel. For a long time, the children were very happy. They would go off with their father in the early morning and stay near him while he worked. They kept themselves busy gathering berries and nuts and mushrooms and would also pick bunches of wildflowers. But everything changed when their father married again, for their stepmother turned out to be a very cruel woman who hated the children. There are too many mouths to feed, she complained to her husband. What a quantity of food these children eat, and us so poor. I tell you, we must get rid of them. This made the woodcutter very uneasy. Nevertheless, the stepmother nagged him until one night when Hansel lay awake in bed, he heard his father agreed to take the children into the forest and leave them there. Next morning, before the grown-ups were awake, Hansel crept outside and filled his pocket with pebbles. When they had some breakfast, their father took them into the forest farther than ever before. Wait for me here, he said. He lit a fire of brushwood to keep them warm and then sadly turned his back on them. When it grew darker, Hansel said, Father will not come again, but I have left a trail of pebbles and we can find our own way. As soon as the moon came up, the little white pebbles shone like stars and led them all the way home to their father's cottage. No one could have been more surprised than the stepmother. That night, Hansel heard her say to their father, I will not have it. You must take them deeper into the forest this time. Sadly overruled by his wife, then Woodcutter took his children even further into the forest. Unhappily, Hansel had not been able to gather pebbles, for the stepmother had taken care to lock the cottage door. Do not worry, whispered Hansel to Gretel. I have crumbled the bread and I got for breakfast and have robbed it on the way. But there was no trail, for the birds had flown down and eaten every crumb. Gretel began to cry, but Hansel said, Look, there is smoke rising above the trees. It may be a woodman's hut. The children hurried through the trees and soon found themselves in a little clearing. There stood the strangest little house they had ever seen. Its walls were made of gingerbread, and its roofs was made of cake, and all the windows were made of barley sugar. Soon they were nibbling away at the little house, for they were very hungry. Hansel broke off a piece of the roof, and Gretel broke off a piece of the window. Then out popped a little old woman. Come in, my dears, she said in the friendliest voice. The old woman made a delicious meal for them, and when they had eaten their fill, she led them upstairs where there were two little beds. What a kind old woman she seemed to be, but dear me, she was really a most wicked witch. Next morning, when Gretel woke up, Hansel was gone. Where is my brother? She asked the old woman, but the reply she got was, Fetch some firewood, the oven must be kept hot. And when she was fetching the wood, Gretel found Hansel locked in the chicken house. You must find a way to save me, cried Hansel, for she plans to cook and eat me. This was exactly what she meant to do, and she had chosen Hansel because he was bigger and plumber. All day long Gretel carried in wood, and the witch piled into the fire until the little kitchen was as hot as it could be. Every time she passed the chicken house, Gretel would whisper to Hansel, Do not worry, Hansel, I will think of a way to save you. Surely, the oven must be hot enough now, said the witch impatiently. Put your head in and tell me if it is hot enough, she said to Gretel. Not yet, said Gretel. The witch put on more wood and told Gretel to test it again. Is it hot enough now? She asked. Not yet, said Gretel. Silly goose, said the witch. It must be hot enough now. I will test it myself. And she put her head into the oven. Quick as lightning, Gretel gave the witch a push that sent her head long into the oven. Gretel slammed the door and fixed the bolt. Then she ran out to Hansel. Gretel broke the lock on the chicken house door, and she and Hansel went back to the cottage. What will you give me if I let you out? Said Hansel to the witch in the oven. I will give you my magic stick, said the witch. It will obey your command and turn anything it touches into nice things to eat. Take it. don't care. Only please let me out. And do you promise to be good from now on and eat no more poor children? Asked Hansel. Yes, yes, I promise, wailed the witch. Hansel snatched up the stake and Gretel unlatched the oven door and out stepped the old woman, rather hot and bothered but smiling. From that day on, she was good, kind old woman and loved the children dearly. She cared for Hansel and Gretel like a loving grandmother and they lived with her in the magic cottage. Hansel only had to say to the magic stick, bring my father here, and they would hear the woodcutter knocking at the chocolate door of the gingerbread cottage and his kind voice saying, how are you, my dears? Moral of the story is that not to trust strangers even if they treat you well.